Welcome to the Atlanta Wellness Clinic podcast. Hosted by licensed nutritionist and clinic owner Katina Wilson, we're here to kickstart your weight loss journey. Because let's be honest, the only thing we want gaining weight is our wallets. From medical weight loss and nutrition coaching to body contouring, we help Metro Atlanta women get real results. Let's dive in.
Is it possible to shed pounds without hitting the gym or counting calories? We're diving into the science behind alternative weight loss methods that could change the game. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Millie M., co-host, producer, here in the studio with licensed nutritionist and clinic owner Katina Wilson. How are you, Katina?
I am well. How about you, Millie?
Doing well. Can't wait to break down this fascinating question with you today because I know our listeners are going to be surprised by some of the insights. Can you really lose weight without dieting or exercise?
Yes, and I'm here to tell you I did it. I actually in my own weight loss journey, I lost the first 40 pounds or so without ever stepping a foot into the gym. So It can be done.
Well,
what I was going to say is all about the 80-20 rule, all about the 80-20. It really fundamentally comes down to nutrition. It comes down to caloric intake, what you're taking in, versus what you're putting out. So as long as you're creating that calorie deficit, it certainly is possible.
They say that it starts with nutrition. So that's the key factor to weight loss beyond what are the key factors beyond diet and exercise?
Well, I mean, diet is the biggest thing, right? So it's all about, again, creating that deficit. There are other factors like reducing stress and getting sleep. And we see it even in our clinic. A lot of people really underestimate the importance of getting a good night's rest. Average person should be likely getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night. But I think, just in our busy society, it's a struggle for a lot of people. And so what ends up happening is that lack of sleep creates disruptions in your hormones, particularly two hormones called ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin really manages the hunger that we feel. And so when you're not getting enough sleep, that hunger feeling, right, it increases. Not a good thing, because so that means you're always going to want something to eat. You're going to want a snack. Leptin, also another hormone that's regulated by sleep, it helps provide satiety, right? And so are you satisfied by what you're eating? Well, unlike ghrelin increases, so you're more hungry. Leptin decreases when you're not getting enough sleep. And so now you're not feeling as satisfied. So now you're searching for something, for a lot of people, it's probably comfort food, right? That's going to give you that feeling of satisfaction. So
those midnight snacks.
Exactly. Absolutely. So sleep is probably like one of the best things you can do. And then I think the other thing too that folks underestimate is stress. Now, lack of sleep can increase stress, but there are other things that, can also increase stress. And so again, when we're talking hormones, when your stress increases, cortisol also increases. And unfortunately, cortisol promotes belly fat storage, right? And so people who say they struggle with the weight, particularly like around their waistline, when you start to dig into like what's really going on with them on a day-to-day basis, they typically are not getting enough sleep, and they're typically under a high degree of stress for whatever reason. And so diet, exercise are certainly the biggest influences in being able to get off the weight. Diet more so than exercise. Again, 80-20. However, sleep is a big contributing factor in managing stress.
Wow, that was a mouthful there. So definitely stress is a very sinister thing, and it affects us in many different ways. And some people stress eat, and some people don't eat when they're stressed. And all of that can affect weight loss, because how does metabolism play a role in shedding those pounds effortlessly?
Well, metabolism is a tricky thing, because I think like the younger you are, your metabolism is at its highest, and then over time it actually starts to decrease over time. And so then you have to do things, right, to really like pump up that metabolism. So in earlier episodes, we talked about the importance of doing things like exercise, particularly like weightlifting. You can exercise and do cardio, but once you stop the cardio, its benefit to your metabolism, it pretty much stops when you stop the cardio. But with something like lifting weights, lifting really heavy weights as an example, and really building that muscle, now you're giving your body an opportunity to create kind of this metabolic process where it's going all day, all night, right? And you're not necessarily like in the gym. So you're doing things to increase your metabolism by lifting weights and building that additional muscle.
Are there medical weight loss interventions that can work without traditional dieting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we offer obviously the GLP-1s, right? So we offer those medications, and those medications play a role also in trying to manage some of the things that we had talked about, right? That hunger feeling. So it's gonna slow down that digestion process. In addition to slowing down that digestion process, it's going to remove that food noise. So you're not going to necessarily not only feel hungry, you're not going to necessarily be thinking about rule. But here's the thing that sometimes people underestimate, and sometimes even not eating enough can contribute to weight gain, right? We've had a couple of conversations actually like recently with some patients here at the clinic, and they say like, I'm not losing weight and I'm super hungry. And so, as a coach, my first inclination is to ask questions. So like, tell me what's going on. And when you dig into their diet, like there's one lady, by the time we walked through like what she eats in a typical day, it wasn't even 1,000 calories, right? So she's literally putting her body, unfortunately, into starvation mode. So I know it sounds counterintuitive. On one hand, at the beginning, we said you want to take in fewer calories, but you don't want to take in such fewer calories to the extreme where it shocks your body, and now your body's saying like, I don't know when I'm going to eat again. So every little thing that you eat, it's going to want to hold on to because it's now in starvation mode. So it is definitely a nice balance. So it is important to eat clean and reduce your calories, but not reduce your calories to the point where it's not only is going to impact your metabolism, but it's also going to send you into starvation mode.
When I was young, I had a biology teacher tell us that we should eat 6 small meals a day as opposed to 3 huge meals. And like you said, clean meals, maybe, carrots and hummus or a baked potato or whatever you suggest is, because I know you're the specialist, but whatever you suggest is good and healthy. But smaller meals throughout the day will rev up that metabolism so that it's constantly burning and constantly going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that idea. And it's something that I follow myself, where I do suggest you have your three primary meals, but then you have some small snacks in between. One of the things that's going to do is it's going to help regulate your blood sugar for sure, right? But then you're just going to be satisfied a lot longer. But that requires planning, or it requires scheduling. And so that's one of the things that, as people going on these weight loss journeys with us, we really try to over index on you really have to plan. Because when you don't plan, when you make decisions when you're hungry, you tend to make bad decisions, right? You ever gone to the grocery store
Mhm.
hungry and maybe you've got a list of like 5 things, and the next thing you know, you've got like a cart full of things.
The word.
Right? Because you're making decisions based upon like how you feel in the moment. So
Mhm.
yeah, I really love the idea of 5 meals throughout the day, because again, it not only levels that blood sugar, but you just generally feel satisfied throughout the day. You don't feel like you're missing something. So that's certainly important.
Bad decisions are made on an empty stomach, I can
Yeah, I
attest.
mean, plenty of bad decisions, right? Plenty of bad decisions. They call it being hangry, right? So for a reason,
Exactly.
for a reason.
Exactly. So while we're on that topic, how do mindset and behavioral changes and I guess emotional states impact long-term weight management?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to, being mindful is critically important. So if you think about it, when you're not mindful, and earlier I said, we're such a busy society. We're always on the go, right? People are on the go in the car. They're eating in their car. They're eating in front of the TV. They're eating in front of their computer at work, right? Just because we're all so busy, right? The challenge with that type of lifestyle, if you will, is you're not paying attention. Not only are you not paying attention to what you're taking in, and you're eating, and you're typically eating too fast, you're not paying
Mhm.
attention to how your body feels. And so for that matter, you overeat. So I'll give myself an example. When I started my journey, I thought I was eating healthy, right? When I was working with a coach, just like, we have patients here that work with me, I was working with a coach. And when I walked her through what I ate, what it really fundamentally came down to is I was eating in front of the TV. I was eating in front of the computer. I wasn't really paying attention. And before I knew it, that healthy pistachios that I was eating turned out I was eating the whole entire bag, right? The
Mhm.
whole bag is not healthy. A fourth of it, that's healthy, but the whole bag of it is not, right? And those are still calories that you're taking in. So I was taking in a lot of excess calories unknowingly. And so it's important to, when we talk about mindful eating, and again, these are conversations that I have with patients, It's let's turn off the TV, let's pay attention and enjoy the food, enjoy the people that we're with when we're eating. Let's pick up our fork, let's chew the food, let's taste it, let's really feel the textures, but put the fork down. Put the fork down, chew your food thoroughly, eat thoroughly 15 to 20 times, swallow it before you pick it up again. One, that's going to force you to slow down. And two, now it's going to give you an opportunity to really like cue into those fullness signals. And so that way you're not overeating. And then what you find when you do that, you actually end up eating less. And that's an easy way to start reducing the number of calories without having to actually count them. It's an easy way to actually start reducing the number of calories. And then before you know it, you're down a pound, you're down 5 pounds, you're down 10, right? Because you made little small changes like that.
Thank you so much for your insight, and our listeners will definitely appreciate all the tips and the tools that you're giving them. We'll catch you on the next time for more insights on achieving real results.
Thank you. Good to see you.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Atlanta Wellness Clinic podcast. If you're ready to kickstart your weight loss journey, and not just your bathroom scale and frustration, visit atlwellnessclinic.com or call us at 770-726-8978 for a free 10-minute weight loss consultation. Because the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time? Right now. See you next time.